Tonight, Port Augusta's main bridge hit with speed restrictions to deal with an increase in pedestrian traffic. And a Port Pirie man's call for help to fight the vile child trafficking industry in Asia.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening. A former Port Augusta police officer found guilty of assaulting a man in Corn while on duty has been sentenced without conviction. The magistrate instead said Adrian Echevarria a good behaviour bond set at $100. Our reporter Lauren Rose filed this report from court.
It was an extremely brief hearing this morning at the Port Augusta Magistrates Court. In fact, Magistrate Kitchen didn't even read aloud his sentencing remarks. He said he'd sentence Adrian Echevarria without conviction, which means even though he'd pleaded guilty to the assault, that won't be considered a criminal record. The assault in question took place in 2014 while Echevarria was working as a police officer with the Port Augusta Police. Prosecution argued the 32-year-old had acted against his training and abused his position of power when he assaulted a man who was intoxicated and in handcuffs, and argued the offence was worthy of a jail term. Echevarria's lawyer told the court her client, born in the Philippines, had been racially abused by the victim, causing him to snap. She said in the weeks prior to the assault, Echevarria was dealing with a relationship breakdown and on the night in question had let his emotions get the better of him. She said Echevarria had since resigned from the police and the loss of that career was punishment enough. Now, Echevarria was given a 2-year good behaviour bond set at $100. If he breaks that bond, he will have to reappear for a possible conviction. At his last appearance, the court heard he had no prior convictions.
Lauren Rose reporting there. The speed limit on Port Augusta's Joy-Baluke Bridge has been lowered from 60 kilometres an hour to 25. The change is in response to pedestrian safety concerns after the Great Western Walking Bridge parallel to it was closed indefinitely this week. The closure forces people on foot, bikers and gopher riders to share a single pedestrian lane on the highway, travelling within metres of heavy traffic, including road trains. But today residents took to social media to express anger over the reduced speed limit, many concerned about increased congestion around school drop-off and pick-up times. Whyalla Council's new CEO has begun this week and says he believes the city has a strong and vibrant future ahead of it. Chris Cowley says securing Ariam's future and attracting tourists issues he's pursuing while he's in the role.
From Murray Bridge to Whyalla, via Queensland and the Grey Ocean Road, Chris Cowley has lived in some unique places. But he says the lure of returning to South Australia was a major reason in him making Whyalla home.
The heartstrings were pulling to come back to South Australia, and so I started looking at opportunities in the region, and Whyalla presented itself.
And he's in no doubt he's taken on a challenge, saying the future of Ariam's Mines and Steelworks is top of his agenda. He says council must begin planning the city's future post-sale.
Plot a future direction and course that gives the community confidence that Whyalla is going to continue on its journey and become a prosperous, vibrant city.
Mr. Cowley also says diversification of the local economy is a must, nominating tourism as an area the city has potential in developing.
I think a lot of the locals don't see the potential. We've got all the natural assets. We've got the cuttlefish, we've got the foreshore, we've got the weather.
The new boss starts at a time where residents and elected members are anxious about the city's future. But Mayor Lynn Brewer says hiring someone with fresh eyes and fresh ideas will help turn this city around.
He's come from interstate, although he's originally South Australian. He can bring those ideas to us and make our community a better place.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Our Port Pirie man has joined the fight against human trafficking, the world's second most lucrative crime. He's joined Destiny Rescue, which saves children overseas from an industry of enslavement and sexual exploitation, and he's encouraging locals to join his fight.
Tom Barnes stumbled across Destiny Rescue by chance and since then has immersed himself in their battle to save children from a world of horror. He started by travelling overseas to save young children from the hideous sex trafficking industry.
When you first go in there, you sort of don't know what to expect.
What goes on behind closed doors is deeply disturbing and uncomfortable.
It all starts with poverty, so it comes down to money. So for the reason being that it might even be their family that would sell these kids to make money to get by.
The Destiny organisation goes undercover, faking their way into brothels to find the young girls who've been sold into sexual slavery.
They go in there and they look through these places, and once they find the young girls, then they build up their trust.
On some occasions, the girls could be abused by multiple men over 20 times a day.
The statistics say that every 26 seconds a new child has been trafficked, and there's 1.2 million kids every year that are trafficked.
For Destiny Rescue, these statistics have faces and names, hearts and emotions, and they want to save as many children as possible.
You can see, even though the trauma that they've been through, they're starting to, rebuild their lives.
Tom volunteered at the Destiny Rescue homes in Cambodia and Thailand, where they rehabilitate the children.
You interact and play in sport, and you can see the enjoyment on their faces.
But he says the girls will never fully recover from the abuse.
I honestly don't believe they could. Not through the trauma that they face.
For information on how to join Tom in his fight, visit our Facebook page. Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln police arrested a Queensland woman in Streaky Bay yesterday after she returned a blood alcohol reading almost 5 times the legal limit. The 45-year-old woman was stopped after patrols received a tip-off from local residents. She returned a breath test of .238 and was charged with drink driving and driving unlicensed and was issued an immediate loss of licence. She's the second person this week to be caught drink driving nearly 5 times over the limit. Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news. Ready for some ring action, preparing for the Shins of Steel in Whyalla. The details next. Welcome back. The Port Pirie Chamber of Commerce is encouraging those who work in the CBD not to clog up parking around the roadworks. The redevelopment has taken a major toll on businesses, and to make it easier for customers, they're suggesting that workers park further away to make more space available. The works are expected to wrap up in May, but some traders are experiencing a severe loss of business. Freeing up the minimal parking spaces could bring in much needed business to the businesses. The largest catch and release offshore fishing competition in South Australia, the Riverina Port Lincoln Tuna Classic, gets underway next week. Anglers of all ages will be competing across 2 days, with hundreds of tuna being caught then released back into the ocean.
11 years on, and the Port Lincoln Tuna Classic is reaching new depths.
We've got 23 boats in it this year, which is a record, and each year it just gets bigger. And I think that's because we've got very simple rules. It's catch and release. 10 kilo line, 10 kilo fish.
Next weekend, anglers will be targeting Port Lincoln's southern bluefin tuna, and it won't just be professionals. A number of young juniors will be taking to the water, something organisers are hopeful to increase in years to come.
Juniors are the future of our sport, and trailer boats are the small game boats, if you like. And a lot of the times you'll find that people will step from a trailer boat up into a larger game boat. So it's important, again, for the future of our sport.
Crews will be competing for bragging rights and the major prize at this year's event, but some of the proceeds will make their way back into the region.
We donate 10% of the Calcutta, where we bet on each boat, to VMR Tumby Bay to assist them. And bear in mind, that's a safety network that operates for everybody throughout the year.
The origins of the classic not forgotten, and the answer to history's oldest question, whose is bigger, still being sought.
Started over a couple of beers at the pub and 4 guys bragging about how good they were at catching tuna. So we decided there was only one way to find out, and that was to have a competition.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Shins of Steel organisers are putting the final touches to their venue ahead of tomorrow's 10th anniversary bout, and despite one of the major fights being cancelled, the promoter says spectators are in for a big night.
With 24 hours to go until fight night, the Whyalla Leisure Centre is slowly turning into a kickboxing ring. Whyalla's fighters also held their final training last night, with fighters from SA and interstate heading to the city tonight. Promoter Justin Fennell says he's excited about what's on offer.
I couldn't be happier with the way the fight card has turned out. I've had a few little hiccups here and there, but now we've got You know, the fight card's set, it's not going to change.
One hiccup has been the withdrawal of Carly Gengel, who's had to pull out due to injury. But there's still 13 fights, including Whyalla boy Hayden Lyon, who will fight in the main bout against Victorian Brett McCluskey.
He came back yesterday from Thailand. He's looking really good, so put him through workout last night, and yeah, he's good to go.
With 8 Whyalla fighters from 2 gyms competing, it seems the locals are responding according to ticket sales. It's nearly a sellout, something Justin says will help his fighters in the ring.
There's a lot of people getting behind the locals, I think, this year, with having 7 people or 8 people from Whyalla competing. I think that's a big help.
Doors open at 6. The fights start at 7. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. When we return after the break, the decider, Wandera and Solly North, go head-to-head for bragging rights in Port Pirie cricket. A match preview next. Welcome back. An 18-year-old from Melbourne is currently on the ride of his life, cycling 20,000 kilometres around Australia in hopes of finding a cure for motor neuron disease. Jack Totino stopped in Port Lincoln today ahead of his toughest challenge yet, riding to Western Australia.
It's an unbelievable effort. 20,000 kilometres around Australia, unassisted on a mountain bike, driven by finding a cure for MND.
My mate's dad passed away in 2014. And I was inspired to do something a bit crazy in an attempt to fundraise money and raise awareness for motor neuron disease.
Jack's remarkable solo journey will take him nearly 7 months to complete, and although his mission has been heavily supported, there's been a few anxious moments from Mum and Dad.
I told my parents that I'd be riding around the country, and at first they thought, we'll get a support crew together and whatnot, but yeah, I told them then that I was doing it unsupported, so all by myself, no support crew.
Every day in Australia, 2 people die from motor neurons disease, and there's currently no cure. But it's thanks to people like Jack providing hope for sufferers.
My goal is to raise 50,000 for the foundation. So far I've raised 25, almost 25,000. So yeah, so far a good start. Not even halfway around the country, and I've almost reached halfway of the goal. I've reached the halfway mark.
And it's the little things keeping him going.
Have people pull me up on the side of the road, give me food, water, offer me to stay at their places for the night. Yeah, real supportive people around us.
Jack's incredible journey has so far brought him 1,400 kilometres to Port Lincoln, but his hardest leg coming up, crossing the Nullarbor to Perth, will be his biggest challenge.
The pain I go through is nothing compared to what he's feeling and other sufferers, so yeah, that makes me keep strong.
For more details about Jack's ride, head over to our Facebook page. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Catholic schools from across the region came together in Port Augusta today for the 41st Spencer Gulf Athletics Carnival. 350 students battled it out on track and field events, and while the high jump was popular, there was something for everyone.
Students from along the Spencer Gulf took a break from the books to spend a day on the track.
So we have St Mark's from Port Pirie, Caritas from Port Augusta, Samaritan from Whyalla, and St Joseph's from Port Lincoln.
A total of 350 participants competed in track and field events at the Athletics Carnival, this year held at Central Oval.
We have high jump, triple jump, long jump. We've got javelin, discus, shot put, as well as all the track events, so 100, 200, 400, 800 metres and 1500 metres, and the relay as well.
High jump proving one of the most popular.
We have done high jump today, and I came second in it.
And I came third, jumping a metre third TA, and bet my PB by 8 centimetres.
The talent is definitely there. There's some very naturally gifted athletes, and it's good to see them compete and sort of express their natural talent.
But the day wasn't only about sporting ability, it was about camaraderie too.
I love just working with my teammates and everyone coming together as a family and supporting each other, even if they're not in the same school.
I think it is very important. It sort of promotes a bit of sort of team bonding and collegiality amongst the schools, and it's always good to come out and do something that the students like and enjoy, and are able to celebrate as well.
This is the Carnival's 41st year. Lauren Rose, Southern Cross News.
Well, this weekend we'll see Port Pirie cricket wrap up with the grand final at Port Oval. Wandera and Solly North will battle it out for the A-grade premiership.
There's no doubt there are plenty of nerves flying around ahead of tomorrow's big game. After defeating Wandera in the first final, Solly North had a week's rest.
Yeah, we won a fortnight ago against Wandera in the second semi-final. It was a tight battle and expect the same this weekend.
Because we lost to Solly North previously, probably a bit of nerves around how we're going to go.
A week off has worked in Solly North's favour. Some of their older players have had the chance to recoup after a big season.
Just basically go and have a look at the game from the weekend and do a little bit of planning. So, definitely worth a week off, and hopefully we're ready to go.
But it will be a big test against Wandera this weekend. They come into the game with a wealth of finals knowledge.
You could say we've got the experience, but they've got Ben Brown, who's played Div 1 cricket, so he's pretty good, and Lee Warwick's very experienced cricketer as well. And
good luck to both sides on the weekend. I'm sure it'll be a great game, so get out to the Port Oval at midday on Saturday.
And our tipster Steve Budd says the winner in his eyes is a fairly safe bet.
It's grand final time in Port Pirie cricket, with Solly North coming up against the ever-successful Wandera at Port Oval starting at 12. Solly North will be quietly confident after their big victory over Wandera in the qualifying final. Wandera bounced back from that match with a strong win over Props in last week's preliminary final. As we all know, runs on the board in grand finals is the way to go, so the toss will be crucial. With a huge crowd expected in perfect conditions, we could see a high-scoring match. It's hard to tip against Wandera in grand finals, and that's why I'm going with them in this one. Finally, good luck to all involved in tomorrow's finals.
Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
And one more round until the grand final in Port Lincoln, so here's this week's cricket tips.
Welcome to this week's Port Lincoln Cricket Tips. Tasman's last week defeated Southern Air South and are straight through to next weekend's grand final. This weekend, Southern Air South will take on Charlton, who knocked off Waybacks last Sunday. Be a really good game of cricket at Centenary Oval on Saturday. Gonna tip Southern Air South to sneak over the line and make their way through to the grand final. Thanks for listening to the Port Lincoln Cricket Tips.
Well, stay with us after the break. We'll have a look at your weekend weather. Welcome back. Turning to the weather now, and first a look at this week's weather photo, which was snapped by Anne Clark at Sleaford on the Lower Eyre Peninsula. If you have a weather photo to share, you can email it into us. Hopefully it's as nice as this one. A sunny and warm day today, 35 in Port Augusta and in Port Pirie as well. Whyalla on 33, Port Lincoln 26 degrees today, Broken Hill also on 35. On the national satellite image, patchy cloud continues across the region. Behind it though, we'll see the temps start to rise. Out on the Gulf waters, the winds to 10 knots and southerly, seas below a metre and to the east. Sunrise is at 7:25. So fine and sunny to kick off the weekend, 36 in Port Augusta and 32 in Whyalla, Port Lincoln 28 degrees expected, a warm 35 in Port Pirie, Broken Hill 37 degrees for your Saturday. Port Lincoln then fine and 31 degrees on Sunday ahead of showers for Monday, 36 to wrap up the weekend in Cleve with 42 in Woodner ahead of a change. Whyalla with 36 on Sunday before the rain brings it back to 30 on Monday, 41 on Sunday in Port Augusta before a 10-degree drop into next week, 36 to wrap up the weekend in Kadina. Port Pirie cloudy and 39 degrees to wrap up the weekend ahead of some rain as well, 36 in Clare, Broken Hill 38 degrees and then 39 as we roll into the new week. And that is the local news for this evening and for the week as well. Don't forget you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also get in touch with us via email. We'll see you back here on Monday night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hatfield from the Southern Cross News team. Enjoy your evening and have a great weekend as well. Good night.